Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a Tuesday night slate here in the NBA, just 5 games to choose from. A few back-to-backs, or at least one team that we have here on a back-to-back. But we do have a couple game videos up and our player props, as always, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. In this one, we're taking a look at the Warriors taking on the Knicks in New York, the sizzling hot New York Knicks there. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great written content up for you guys all season long, and our odds finder tool that you can use to make sure you're getting the best juice back on all those bets you make in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into this slate and then talk Dubs and Knicks.
Yeah, we got Jazz Pistons first. Utah -3 after getting stomped in Cleveland. Second consecutive stomping for them on the road. Then this game is opened at Warriors +6. Been bet down a little bit, +4.5 right now. Bulls are +6 in Miami. The Wizards +8 at Phoenix. Phoenix was able to rest Devin Booker tonight because the Lakers couldn't play anybody on a back-to-back there. And then the other game we'll talk about, the Grizzlies in a pick'em at Denver. It did open with Memphis +3, but that has been quickly rectified because the Grizz are red hot. And the Knicks are also red hot, as you mentioned here. 7 straight wins. 3 at home during the streak with an incredible 91 defensive rating, allowing nothing in the paint in that span and struggling to score. But I know you might think that indicates under. I am not taking an under with this Golden State Warriors team, and definitely not on the road. I mean, their defense is absolutely abysmal. And the way they're going to play without Steph Curry is a lot more pace, actually. It's going to be a lot more Jordan Poole, live and die by the pool, and see if they can get something going with the game more up tempo. And they were able to get a lot of free throws in 2 of their last 3 games. That did eventually lead to a win in Toronto. We were a little too reluctant to just bet, to fade them right away against Indy or Philadelphia with Steph out. But turns out they were fadeable because turns out the fact that when you have a negative 125 plus minus, when your best player is off the floor, there's something to that. And when you're struggling, can't buy a win with Steph Curry, with him playing at the highest level of his career on the road, you can buy a win. I don't think that's really going to change just because, you see this phenomenon all the time in the NBA that when the star goes out, the rest of the team shares the ball better and they play better. But Steph Curry's kind of the antithesis of that, kind of like Kyrie Irving's out, so everyone's going to see more touches and play better and rally better because he's a joy to play with and he keeps the ball moving and he opens the spacing. And Andrew Wiggins being out is also a huge negative for the Warriors defense as well. Especially the way R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle have come along now. The Knicks have proven very capable of playing in shootouts and low-scoring games recently. They've kind of been a magnet for overtime games as well, which has helped have some of those overs. I come back to this is now Jordan Poole's team, and the Warriors are going to continue to hoist threes at an extremely high rate. They're playing in Madison Square Garden, where visiting players tend to bring their shot. But their defense is just so bad that I very much would take the Knicks at -4.5. And I think I would lean towards this game going over as well, because I think the Knicks are going to score maybe 120. So maybe you just want their team total.
I kind of want all that, and it's so funny because as I was going through all of this, that everything that you just sort of went through has been my thought process as well, and I took the same roundabout way to get there. The first thought is, I don't know, it started at 224, by the way, it's down to 222.5 at least on DraftKings. You can get an over on that, and basically I started looking for ways that this might go under, and then immediately was just like, I got nothing for you. I mean, I know how good the Knicks defense has been of late. I'm so happy to say that Evan Fournier has not seen the floor in the last 7 games that they've won. Derrick Rose has played like 5 minutes a game in those 7 that they've won, and no true malice meant towards those guys. But if you're gonna have guys that aren't playing great defense in your veterans, such as Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier, then why not just go ahead and get those guys like Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickley and even some Miles McBride? Like, why not just get those guys in if they're all playing defense as poorly as? But then guess what? He put those guys in, and their defensive rating drops as and is as good as you've been talking about that it is right now, which is obviously best in the league over the course of the last 7. You look at their games at home as well, all going under, but I mean their defensive rating playing at 91.5. That pace is still at 98.5, and so I know that they're guarding the 3 incredibly well to the tune of 27.6% that they're allowing from deep over the course of this 7-game win streak. Definitely number 1. Only 9.1 threes made during that streak as well. They've played a few teams in there that are definitely 3-point shooting, fast-paced teams. Obviously, the Pacers is sort of a good measuring stick because these Steph-less Warriors just played those Pacers, and that game went clear over. 244 was the final total there, and obviously that barrage of threes on both sides, a lack of defense, and just pace 108.5 pace. Then the Knicks come to town and play that exact same Pacers team with all the same players in, and they keep that pace all the way down to what they've been at, roughly like 98 or 98.5, limiting the team, them to 13 for 38 from 3. Pacers team that is shooting a ton of threes and scoring, the 4th highest percentage of points from deep. So it's not like the Knicks could not insert their will if they wanted to. The problem and the reason that I then just flip to the under is as soon as you start looking at all the Warriors' defensive stats, because it doesn't matter if they were playing like Eastern Los Angeles Community College, they would probably be giving up, 120 defensive rating and allowing 120 points per game, because that's what they do to whomever they're playing against right now. And it's pretty disappointing. Steph hasn't been the problem for them on the road. It's been their defense and lack thereof. Teams not really going to the paint against them, which is interesting because they're still just giving up 40% versus 3. So they're not allowing nearly as many paint points as you might think for a team that is definitely struggling in that area without a true center outside of Kavan, who's doing his best, but he's still 6'9", unathletic center. And then Draymond is, the shell of himself that we've seen even in these last 4 without Steph. And that 4th game was the one against the Bucks. But I think the Knicks there's opportunity for them to just keep shooting from deep. RJ and Jalen and Julius Randle are just going to continue to eat. There's no reason to think that they're not. Every way that they score second chance points for Randle, who's been getting 11.5 rebounds a game over the course of this 7-game win streak. RJ Barrett shooting 36% from deep. Jalen shooting 50% from deep. Quentin Grimes shooting 45% from deep. So if you're going to allow teams to shoot 40% on the road from beyond the arc, which is what they've been doing, look at the team that they beat. It was the Raptors, and guess who can't make threes to the tune of the worst 3-point shooting team essentially and the fewest made in the league, Toronto, which is there continues to be their downfall, even if guys like Pascal are scoring 39 against the 76ers like he did on Monday night. But main point being, like, what these teams do, what New York does well on offense is going to be a feast for them in this one, that reason alone, feel great about taking that, the over on their team total. And then for the game, it's at 222. That's still pretty low. If you expect that many points, I think you expect the Dubs to get at least 110 to 115 in this one.
Yeah, 108.5 pace they played at Indiana. That is absurd. And to then give up that many open looks when you're doing that. Look, I mean, if you expect the Warriors to come with a good defensive showing, it has to be Draymond Green. And you mentioned him as a shell of himself. He's also like kind of the yin missing his yang now. And as soon as Steph went out, his lines are just atrocious here. In that rest of that Milwaukee game, sure. In that Indiana game that was played at a brisk pace, he went for the old 1-2-3 line with 6 turnovers. And then he did come out and play well against Toronto after sitting a game. But Toronto, we've covered in multiple games, absolutely horrendous on defense without OG Anunoby as well. So, I mean, the fact that they were able to get right there and limit a really struggling team does not give me a lot of confidence that the Warriors are going to be able to cover this spread. I understand why people hit it at +6, but I think that's kind of foolish because this is really a feast or famine team. I don't think that they're the type of team to hang around and just lose by 4 or 5. They're either going to lose by like 16, or they're going to be in this game and maybe win it by 12 or something. Like it's just a question of whether Jordan Poole goes unconscious, basically. And for me, I'd rather bet against that when you have a full team from the Knicks, when you have a good defensive coach in Tibbs and a good scheme. And I'd rather bet against Draymond Green, suddenly finding his fire and leadership that's kind of been absent all season to get them to play defense on the road. So yeah, Knicks points and Knicks to cover.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the punch, but you brought up the fact that he's not being as quite, maybe he's vocal, but it seems like it's a lot more geared towards the refs than it is to his teammates at this point. Maybe he doesn't have their respect quite as much, but either way, yeah, it's also just his ability, to just fly back and forth and play that Ed Reed style free safety in the NBA that he's always been known to play. Just it seems a little bit more slow-footed, to be honest, just half a step slower. And he's getting foul calls instead of getting stops there and being in correct position. So he doesn't have any help either. With Wiggins out, it should be stated, their defensive rating jumps up from 112 to 117. That's not a surprise at all. One of the best defensive wings in the league. For whatever you want to say about how his offensive game looked before he got to the Warriors, he's always been a good defensive player, freak athlete, who when he's committed is incredible. So yeah, he's got one of the best individual defensive ratings, and as a result, this team suffers greatly on defense without him. He frees up guys to do a lot. So yeah, they're in trouble in this one, and even if they are able to sort of score a bunch of points, which I could see them doing for sure, you trust the Knicks to get the stops they need at the end. You never trust the Warriors to be able to get the stops they need right now, as they couldn't guard a nosebleed. So at any rate, that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We will be back with you each and every weekday this season. So until we see you next, happy betting.